The crystal champagne flute felt cold against my palm as I stood in the corporate headquarters ballroom, watching 200 guests celebrate my younger sister Amanda's inauguration as CEO of our family's manufacturing empire. 20 years of building this company alongside my father, expanding our digital division by 40%, and I expected nothing more than a ceremonial handshake and my new role as Chief Operating Officer. The string quartet played softly near the marble fountain, while board members mingled with employees and local dignitaries. I raised my glass toward Amanda, who stood beneath the gold-framed portrait of our grandfather, the company founder. She looked directly at me with ice-cold eyes and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. "Gordon, you're fired. Security will escort you out immediately." The room fell silent. I calmly removed my guest badge, placed it on the nearest table and replied, "Tell Mom and Dad the board will meet in 4 hours." Then I walked out. My hands gripped the steering wheel as I drove through downtown traffic, the humiliation burning in my chest like acid. Amanda's words echoed in my mind while I navigated toward my apartment building. How could she destroy me so publicly after everything we'd built together? I remembered teaching her to read financial statements when she was 15, showing her how to analyze market trends during college breaks. She used to call me her business mentor, her protective big brother, who made sure Dad never pushed her too hard. The elevator climbed to my 20th floor apartment while my phone buzzed with text messages from shocked colleagues. I ignored them all except one name, Frank Rodriguez, our longest-serving board member and my father's closest friend for 30 years. Frank had watched Amanda and me grow up, attended our graduations, celebrated every company milestone with our family. "Gordon, we need to talk immediately." Frank's voice carried urgency when I called him back. "Meet me at the coffee shop on 5th Street. Don't go home yet." 20 minutes later, I sat across from Frank in a corner booth while he stirred his black coffee nervously. His weathered face showed the concern of someone who'd spent decades protecting our family's interests. "Son, I've discovered something that explains tonight's disaster." Frank began glancing around to ensure privacy. "Amanda has been meeting secretly with Vincent Shaw." The name hit me like a physical blow. Vincent Shaw, CEO of Titan Industries, our grandfather's old business rival who'd tried purchasing our company 3 times in the past decade. Shaw represented everything our family stood against: corporate greed, employee exploitation, and the destruction of American manufacturing jobs. "That's impossible," I said, though doubt crept into my voice. "Amanda knows what Shaw did to Grandpa's original partners." Frank pulled out his tablet and showed me security footage from Shaw's downtown office building. The timestamp showed Amanda entering and leaving Shaw's building repeatedly, over 6 months, always alone, always wearing sunglasses despite overcast weather. "I started tracking this after Amanda's inauguration speech," Frank explained. "She used phrases identical to Titan's corporate philosophy, words like efficiency optimization and legacy restructuring that Shaw coined in his business school lectures." My stomach dropped as memories flooded back. Amanda's recent changes made sense now: her new, expensive wardrobe, her sudden criticism of our company culture, her insistence that I was holding back modernization efforts. Shaw had been poisoning her mind against everything we'd built. "Frank, does Dad know about these meetings?" "I called your mother an hour ago. Patricia said she's been kept completely in the dark about Amanda's recent decisions. Your father thinks Amanda has been attending graduate business seminars." The pieces fell together like a puzzle, revealing an ugly picture. Amanda hadn't just betrayed me personally. She'd potentially handed our family legacy to our enemies. Shaw's company specialized in acquiring family businesses, stripping their assets, and selling profitable divisions to overseas competitors. Our grandfather had spent his entire life protecting against exactly this scenario. Frank leaned forward, his expression grave. "Gordon, I think Amanda's planning something bigger than just removing you from leadership. Shaw doesn't make social calls." My phone rang with Mom's number. Her voice trembled with confusion and fear. "Gordon, honey, what happened tonight?" Amanda won't answer my calls, and your father is locked in his study looking through old business files. Mom, I need you and Dad to stay calm. Something's happening that goes beyond sibling rivalry. Can you ask Dad to gather all his corporate documents? We're going to need them. After hanging up, Frank and I sat in heavy silence. Outside the coffee shop windows, downtown traffic moved normally, while my world collapsed. Amanda's betrayal cut deeper than professional disappointment. She was my little sister, who used to ask me to check her closet for monsters. Now she'd become the monster, threatening to destroy everything our family had built across 3 generations. Frank, how much time do we have before irreversible damage occurs? Based on Amanda's urgency tonight, I estimate we have hours, not days. Shaw doesn't waste time once he's positioned his pieces. I finished my coffee and stood up, decision crystallizing in my mind. Then, we'd better start gathering our own pieces. This fight is just beginning. My former assistant, Sarah Chen, waited nervously in the back corner of Brewster's Cafe, clutching a manila envelope like her life depended on it. Sarah had worked for me for 3 years, organizing my schedule, managing communications, and maintaining our department's confidential files. Risking her job to meet me showed incredible loyalty. Gordon, I'm so sorry about what happened tonight, Sarah whispered, sliding the envelope across the small table. I copied these files before security locked you out of the building. Amanda's been restructuring everything, and I don't think she's working alone. I opened the envelope carefully, finding dozens of printed documents that made my blood run cold. Financial statements, organizational charts, consultant agreements, and correspondence that revealed Amanda's systematic dismantling of our company culture. Look at page 12. Sarah pointed to a document titled Operational Efficiency Assessment. Amanda hired external consultants to evaluate every department for redundancy elimination. The recommendations target our oldest employees and most loyal managers. The consultant firm was Shaw Enterprises Solutions, a subsidiary of Titan Industries that specialized in corporate restructuring. Amanda had been paying Shaw's company $300,000 over 8 months to analyze our business for weaknesses. Sarah, this assessment recommends eliminating our employee pension program and outsourcing manufacturing to overseas facilities. Amanda knows this would destroy everything Dad built. Keep reading, Sarah urged, her voice barely audible above the cafe's background noise. Page 15 contained a preliminary merger agreement worth $800 million. The document outlined Titan Industries' acquisition of our company, with Amanda receiving a 5-year executive contract and Shaw gaining controlling interest in all operations. Our grandfather's name would disappear entirely, replaced by Titan Manufacturing Solutions East Coast Division. This merger agreement is already signed, I said, staring at Amanda's signature in blue ink. When was this dated? 2 weeks ago, the same day Amanda convinced your father to announce his early retirement. She told the board that you were planning a hostile takeover and threatening family stability. My hands shook as I read further. Amanda had systematically replaced key executives with Titan Industries alumni over 6 months. Our head of human resources, chief financial officer, and director of operations were all former Shaw employees who joined our company with glowing recommendations Amanda personally endorsed. Sarah, our own leadership team is working for Shaw. Amanda didn't just betray me. She's been infiltrating our company with enemy agents. There's more, Sarah said, pointing to the final section. Amanda recorded private family conversations during therapy sessions your parents attended. She convinced Dr. Martinez to let her participate via video call, then used those recordings to build psychological profiles of your family's communication patterns. The recordings were transcribed and analyzed by Shaw's corporate psychology consultants. They contained my father's fears about retirement, my mother's concerns about family unity, and my own frustrations with feeling unappreciated for my contributions. Shaw had studied our family like laboratory specimens, identifying exactly which emotional triggers would divide us. Gordon, Amanda told Dr. Martinez that you'd been exhibiting signs of paranoia and resentment toward her success. She suggested your parents needed protection from your alleged instability. I closed the envelope, finally understanding the scope of Shaw's manipulation. He'd turned my sister into a weapon against our own family, using her love and ambition to destroy us from within. Amanda believed she was saving the company from my supposed incompetence, while actually delivering it to our greatest enemy. Sarah, how long before Amanda's emergency board meeting? Me-ow-tea, me-ed-me. 1 hour and 45 minutes. She moved it up after tonight's confrontation, claiming you might attempt legal action to block her leadership. I stood up, slipping the envelope inside my jacket. Sarah, you've risked everything to expose this conspiracy. After tonight, regardless of what happens, you'll have my recommendation for any position you want. Gordon just stopped Shaw from destroying what your grandfather built. Some things matter more than job security. As I drove toward my childhood home, I realized Amanda didn't understand Shaw's real intentions. The preliminary merger agreement contained termination clauses that would eliminate Amanda's position within 18 months. Shaw had no intention of sharing power. He'd used Amanda to remove family resistance, then planned to discard her like every other obstacle. My sister thought she was gaining independence and proving her competence. Instead, she'd become Shaw's unwitting accomplice in corporate murder. The question was whether I could save her before she completed the destruction of everything our family had spent 3 generations building. Time was running out, and Shaw held every advantage except one: he'd underestimated our family's capacity for forgiveness and our willingness to fight for each other when the truth finally emerged. The familiar scent of my mother's lavender candles greeted me as I entered our family home through the kitchen door. Mom sat at the breakfast table with red-rimmed eyes, still wearing her navy dress from Amanda's inauguration party. Her hands trembled as she poured tea from the ceramic pot my grandmother had given her 30 years ago. Gordon, sweetheart, I don't understand what happened tonight, Mom said, reaching for my hand. Amanda wouldn't explain anything, except that you'd been making threats about taking over the company illegally. Mom, Amanda's being manipulated by people who want to destroy everything Dad built. She thinks she's protecting the family, but she's actually helping our enemies. Before Mom could respond, heavy footsteps echoed from Dad's study down the hallway. Robert Spencer emerged carrying a leather briefcase I hadn't seen since childhood, the one he used for the most important business negotiations. His silver hair was disheveled, and his usually immaculate shirt was wrinkled from hours of research. Son, I've been expecting you, Dad said, his voice carrying the authority that had built our company into an industry leader. I never signed the final CEO transfer documents Amanda requested. I only agreed to step back temporarily while she proved her readiness for leadership. The relief hit me like a wave. Dad, you still have legal control over major company decisions? Completely. Amanda has operational authority, but any mergers, acquisitions, or fundamental changes require my signature as majority shareholder. Dad opened his briefcase and spread documents across the dining room table. I hired a private investigator after noticing Amanda's behavioral changes. Look at what he discovered. The investigator's report contained photographs, financial records, and communication logs that revealed Shaw's systematic targeting of family businesses across 3 states. Shaw's strategy was always identical: identify successful family companies, manipulate younger generation members against their parents, create artificial crises, then offer rescue mergers that dissolved family ownership. Dad Shaw has destroyed 15 family businesses using this exact pattern. The Patterson Construction Company in Ohio, Williams Electronics in Michigan, Rodriguez Automotive in Texas. All dissolved within 2 years of Shaw's involvement. I know, son. I've been corresponding with the surviving family members for weeks. Shaw promises partnership and independence, then eliminates family involvement entirely. He's a corporate predator who feeds on our most precious relationships. Mom looked between us with growing understanding. Robert, are you saying Amanda doesn't realize what Shaw is really planning? Patricia Shaw has been coaching Amanda to see Gordon as a threat to family harmony and business success. She genuinely believes removing Gordon will save our company and protect our relationships. Dad showed me transcripts of phone conversations between Amanda and Shaw that the investigator had obtained through legal channels. Shaw positioned himself as a mentor, helping Amanda overcome family limitations and achieve her full potential. He convinced her that traditional family businesses inevitably failed due to nepotism and emotional decision-making. Gordon Amanda told Shaw that you'd been questioning her qualifications and undermining her authority with other employees. Shaw used those conversations to convince her that you were planning a hostile takeover. The transcripts revealed Shaw's psychological manipulation in devastating detail. He'd studied Amanda's insecurities about living in my shadow, her desire to prove herself independently, and her fear of family conflict. Shaw offered her validation, sophisticated business knowledge, and the promise of respect from industry leaders who would never take a family business seriously. Dad Shaw convinced Amanda that partnering with Titan Industries was the only way to modernize our operations and compete with larger corporations. Exactly. But Shaw's real financial situation tells a different story. Dad pulled out additional documents his investigator had obtained from former Titan employees. Titan Industries is leveraged beyond sustainability. Shaw needs our assets and government contracts to avoid bankruptcy within 18 months. The revelation stunned me. Shaw wasn't expanding his empire. He was desperately trying to save it by consuming profitable family businesses. Our company's solid financial foundation and established relationships with defense contractors represented Shaw's last chance to avoid corporate collapse. Gordon Shaw's other acquisitions weren't successful businesses afterward. They were stripped for parts and sold to overseas investors. Shaw has no intention of preserving what we've built. Mom stood up abruptly, pacing to the kitchen window. Robert, we have to save Amanda before she signs away everything her grandfather created. She doesn't understand what Shaw is really doing. Patricia's right, but we have limited time. Amanda called an emergency board meeting for 11 o'clock tonight. She plans to present the merger agreement for immediate approval. I checked my watch, 9:15. We had 1 hour and 45 minutes to reach Frank and the other board members who didn't know about Shaw's involvement. Most importantly, we had to save Amanda from completing a transaction that would destroy her own future, along with our family's legacy. Dad Amanda doesn't legally have authority to approve mergers without your signature, correct? That's right. But Shaw doesn't know I've been investigating him. He believes Amanda has complete control and family support for the merger. Then, we have one advantage: Shaw doesn't expect he's walking into a trap where we control the final decision. Dad smiled for the first time that evening, the expression I remembered from childhood, when he'd outmaneuvered competitors through careful planning and patience. Son Shaw spent months manipulating our family relationships. Now it's time to show him what those relationships are really worth when we stand together. The corporate building's marble lobby felt different at 10 o'clock at night, shadows stretching across the polished floors, where earlier hundreds of guests had celebrated Amanda's inauguration. Frank Rodriguez waited by the security desk with 3 other board members: Dr. Elizabeth Carter from the Medical Advisory Board, James Thompson, who'd managed our pension investments for 20 years, and Maria Santos, our employee representative who'd started in manufacturing 30 years ago. Gordon. We came as soon as Frank explained the situation. Dr. Carter said, her usually calm demeanor showing signs of stress. If Shaw is really behind Amanda's recent decisions, we need to protect both the company and your family. Security initially blocked our access to the executive floors, claiming Amanda had restricted building access to essential personnel only. Frank presented his board credentials and insisted that 4 voting members had the right to attend any emergency meeting. The security guard reluctantly escorted us to the elevator. The 22nd floor conference room glowed with artificial lighting that made everyone's faces look pale and tired. Amanda sat at the head of the mahogany table, wearing a charcoal business suit I'd never seen before, her hair pulled back severely and her expression unreadable. Vincent Shaw occupied the chair to her right, flanked by two expensive lawyers in navy suits, who looked like they'd stepped out of a corporate warfare manual. Shaw was smaller than I'd expected, probably 5 feet 8 inches with thinning brown hair and wire-rimmed glasses that made his eyes appear larger than normal. His voice carried the polished confidence of someone accustomed to controlling conversations and manipulating outcomes. Amanda, I thought we agreed this meeting would include only essential decision-makers, Shaw said, gesturing dismissively toward our group. These emotional discussions require focused leadership, not family therapy sessions. Amanda's composure cracked slightly when she saw me enter the conference room. Gordon, you're not supposed to be here. Security was instructed to maintain building access restrictions. Amanda, I'm still a company employee until official termination procedures are completed. More importantly, 4 board members requested Dad's presence before any major decisions affecting company ownership. Dad followed me into the room, carrying the same leather briefcase that had accompanied him through decades of successful negotiations. His presence immediately shifted the room's dynamic, as Shaw realized his carefully planned meeting now included unexpected participants. Mr. Shaw, I don't believe we've been formally introduced, Dad said, extending his hand with deceptive courtesy. Robert Spencer, company founder and majority shareholder. Shaw's lawyers exchanged glances as they realized their client had miscalculated the legal authority structure. Amanda produced her CEO appointment documents, spreading them across the table with nervous energy. Dad, these papers give me full operational control, including merger and acquisition decisions. The board has already approved my leadership transition. Amanda, operational control is different from ownership authority, Frank interjected gently. Your father never transferred his controlling shares to anyone. Major corporate changes still require his approval. Shaw became visibly agitated, his professional composure slipping, as he realized months of manipulation might unravel in a single evening. Mr. Spencer, your daughter has worked tirelessly to modernize operations and position this company for sustainable growth. Family sentiment cannot override business necessities. Mr. Shaw, I appreciate your concern for our business welfare, Dad replied with the calm confidence of someone holding winning cards. However, I've been researching your track record with family businesses, and the results are quite disturbing. Dad opened his briefcase and displayed the investigator's files containing photographs, financial records, and testimony from Shaw's previous acquisition targets. The Patterson family in Ohio had lost their construction company and their savings. The Williams family in Michigan watched 3 generations of electronics manufacturing expertise dissolve into overseas assembly contracts. Mr. Shaw, your business model appears to involve destroying family enterprises and eliminating American manufacturing jobs. That conflicts rather dramatically with our company's values and mission. Shaw's lawyers immediately began damage control, claiming their client's previous acquisitions had been necessary due to poor family management and changing market conditions. Shaw himself shifted to aggressive tactics, suggesting Dad was too emotionally attached to outdated business models to recognize necessary evolution. Robert Gordon's resistance to change has been documented extensively. Amanda understands that family businesses require professional management to survive in competitive markets. Actually, Mr. Shaw, I've been documenting something else entirely, Dad said, pulling out transcripts of Amanda's conversations with Shaw. My private investigator obtained these communications through legal channels. They reveal your systematic manipulation of family relationships for corporate gain. Amanda's face went white as she recognized her own words in Shaw's psychological coaching sessions. The transcripts showed Shaw encouraging her to see me as a threat, teaching her to question Dad's judgment, and convincing her that family loyalty was a business weakness that required professional intervention. Amanda, did Mr. Shaw help you prepare your inauguration speech tonight? Dad asked gently. Yes, but he was just helping me sound more professional and confident. The speech contained Titan Industries' exact corporate philosophy, including phrases Shaw trademarked in his business school lectures. You were unknowingly promoting his company's interests, not ours. Shaw called for an immediate merger vote, claiming Dad and I were emotionally manipulating Amanda to maintain outdated family control. His lawyers produced additional paperwork designed to pressure the board into quick decisions before rational analysis could occur. This merger represents Amanda's vision for corporate evolution, Shaw insisted. Delaying implementation only strengthens competitors who aren't burdened by family politics. Mr. Shaw, what's your company's current debt-to-asset ratio? Dad asked suddenly. The question caught Shaw off guard. His lawyers tried to deflect, claiming financial details were proprietary information protected by confidentiality agreements. Actually, Mr. Shaw, your former employees provided quite detailed information about Titan Industries' financial condition. Dad continued. You need our assets and government contracts to avoid bankruptcy within 18 months. This isn't business expansion. It's corporate desperation. The room erupted as Shaw realized his deception was completely exposed. Amanda stared at the documents spread across the conference table, finally understanding that Shaw had never intended to honor their partnership agreements. Shaw's lawyers revealed merger terms that would immediately terminate Amanda's employment after a 6-month transition period. The woman Shaw had promised to elevate as an industry leader would be discarded the moment her usefulness ended. Amanda broke down completely, her confident facade crumbling as she realized she'd been Shaw's victim, not his partner. Gordon, I thought I was protecting the family from your mistakes. Shaw showed me evidence that you'd been undermining Dad's authority and planning to force him into retirement. Amanda, what evidence? Financial discrepancies in your departmental budget, employee complaints about your management style, suggestions that you were positioning yourself to take over before Dad was ready to retire. Frank leaned forward, his expression sad but understanding. Amanda, those documents were fabricated. Gordon's department has consistently operated under budget with exceptional employee satisfaction ratings. Shaw made one final desperate attempt to salvage his scheme, threatening lawsuits and claiming the family was violating fiduciary responsibilities to shareholders. Dad ended the discussion by formally announcing his decision to maintain family ownership and reject all merger proposals. Mr. Shaw, I think it's time for you and your associates to leave our building. Security will escort you to ensure you don't accidentally take any proprietary information. As Shaw and his lawyers gathered their materials, Amanda sat alone at the conference table, finally understanding how completely she'd been manipulated. The sister who'd fired me 4 hours ago now looked like a lost child, who'd realized she'd been talking to strangers instead of her family. The conference room felt eerily quiet after security escorted Shaw and his legal team from the building. Amanda remained seated at the head of the table, staring at the merger documents that would have destroyed everything our grandfather had built. Her shoulders shook with silent tears as the magnitude of her deception became clear. Frank, Dr. Carter, and the other board members discreetly left to give our family privacy for what needed to be the most honest conversation we'd ever had. Dad locked the conference room door and dimmed the overhead lights, creating an atmosphere more suitable for healing than corporate warfare. Amanda, I need you to tell us everything Shaw said and promised. Dad began, his voice gentle despite the evening's emotional turmoil. We can't rebuild trust without understanding how this manipulation developed. Amanda wiped her eyes with a tissue from the conference table dispenser, then looked directly at me for the first time since her inauguration speech. Gordon Shaw approached me 8 months ago with documents suggesting you'd been embezzling funds from your digital division. The evidence looked completely authentic. My stomach dropped. What kind of evidence? Bank statements showing transfers to offshore accounts, employee testimonials, claiming you'd been demanding kickbacks from vendors, internal memos, discussing plans to force Dad out of leadership. Amanda's voice trembled as she continued. Shaw said exposing you publicly would destroy the family, but a quiet merger with Titan would protect everyone while removing you from financial access. The sophisticated nature of Shaw's deception became clear. He'd created an elaborate fictional narrative that positioned Amanda as the family protector, while casting me as a criminal threat, requiring immediate intervention. Amanda did Shaw provide solutions for handling these supposed crimes. He said family businesses often struggle with internal theft because emotional relationships prevent objective decision-making. Shaw offered to help transition company ownership to professional management, while ensuring you received psychological treatment instead of criminal prosecution. Dad shook his head sadly. Amanda Shaw convinced you that betraying Gordon was actually saving him. That's remarkable psychological manipulation. Shaw scheduled weekly mentoring sessions where he taught me about corporate governance and family business weaknesses. Amanda continued. He said traditional family companies failed because they prioritized relationships over performance metrics. I sat down across from Amanda, trying to process how Shaw had transformed my protective sister into someone who viewed family bonds as business liabilities. Amanda, what did Shaw promise you personally? Independence from family expectations, respect from industry leaders, and partnership in building a modern corporation that could compete internationally. Amanda's voice broke completely. Shaw said you'd been holding me back professionally because you were threatened by my potential success. The cruelty of Shaw's strategy became apparent. He'd exploited every insecurity Amanda felt about living in my shadow, while convincing her that removing me was an act of family protection rather than personal betrayal. Amanda, did Shaw record your conversations with him? Yes. He said documentation was important for legal protection and business planning. Shaw told me that emotional family discussions needed professional analysis to identify productive solutions. Dad pulled out additional files the investigator had obtained from former Titan employees. Amanda Shaw has used identical language and promises with 15 other family businesses. The Williams daughter in Michigan received the same mentoring about independence and professional respect before she helped Shaw destroy her father's electronics company. Amanda studied the investigators' reports, recognizing phrases Shaw had used during their private meetings. The Patterson family's son in Ohio had been convinced his father was mismanaging finances. The Rodriguez family's daughter in Texas believed her brothers were sabotaging her advancement within their automotive business. Gordon Shaw played recordings of our family therapy sessions to show me how you'd been expressing resentment about my promotion and questioning Dad's judgment about retirement timing. The revelation explained how Shaw had obtained such detailed psychological profiles of our family dynamics. Dr. Martinez had allowed Amanda to participate in family sessions via video conference, never suspecting that Shaw was coaching her responses and recording every conversation. Amanda, those recordings were taken out of context and edited to support Shaw's narrative, Dad said. Every family has concerns and disagreements during transitions. Shaw turned normal communication into evidence of dysfunction. I know that now, Amanda replied, fresh tears flowing. But Shaw was so convincing, so professional. He had explanations for everything and solutions for problems I didn't even realize existed. I reached across the table and took Amanda's hand, the first physical contact we'd shared since childhood. Amanda Shaw spent months studying our family to find exactly the right pressure points. He knew you wanted recognition for your abilities and independence from family protection. Shaw said family businesses held women back because male relatives couldn't accept female leadership. He convinced me that proving myself required removing traditional family influences. The psychological sophistication of Shaw's manipulation impressed me, even as it horrified me. He'd weaponized Amanda's legitimate desires for professional respect and personal autonomy, turning them into tools for destroying the family relationships that actually supported her success. Amanda, what was Shaw's timeline for completing the merger? Originally 6 months, but he accelerated everything after tonight. Shaw said your public confrontation proved you were becoming desperate and might attempt legal action to block my leadership. Dad opened his laptop and showed Amanda the virus detection reports our IT director had discovered in company systems. Amanda Shaw's consultants planted malicious software designed to activate during merger completion. The virus would have destroyed all our financial records client databases, and intellectual property. Amanda stared at the technical reports, finally understanding that Shaw had never intended to acquire a functioning company. He was planning to destroy everything from the beginning. Shaw's pattern involves psychological manipulation, family division, merger discussions, then total corporate destruction, Dad explained. He eliminates competition while acquiring valuable assets like our government contracts. Amanda covered her face with both hands, overwhelmed by the scope of her near-catastrophic mistake. Gordon, I almost gave away everything Grandpa built because I believed lies about you being a criminal and me being a business visionary. Amanda Shaw is a professional manipulator who's destroyed dozens of families using these exact tactics. You were his victim, not his accomplice. The conversation continued for another hour as Amanda shared details about Shaw's coaching sessions, his promises about her future role in a merged company, and his systematic erosion of her trust in family decision-making. Each revelation showed how carefully Shaw had crafted his psychological assault on our relationships. Gordon, can you forgive me for believing Shaw's lies and treating you so cruelly? Amanda, family means forgiving each other when we make mistakes. Shaw exploited your love for this family and your desire to protect us. That shows good intentions, even if the execution was terrible. Dad stood up and walked to the window overlooking the city lights. Children, we've learned that our family bonds are both our greatest strength and our most vulnerable weakness. Shaw nearly succeeded because he understood how much we care about each other. Amanda wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders, showing the determination that had always marked her character. Dad, Gordon, how do we make sure this never happens again? And how do we help Shaw's other victims recover what they've lost? The question marked a turning point from self-recrimination toward constructive action. Amanda's willingness to take responsibility while focusing on solutions showed me that Shaw hadn't permanently damaged her essential character. Amanda, we start by rebuilding trust through complete honesty and shared decision-making, I said. Then we use what we've learned to help other families recognize and resist similar manipulation. 3 days later, I worked late in my restored office, reviewing new security protocols designed to prevent future infiltration attempts. The familiar surroundings felt different now, charged with the awareness of how close we'd come to losing everything. Outside my 20th floor windows, the city sparkled with evening lights that reminded me why our grandfather had chosen this location for his company headquarters 60 years ago. Marcus Williams, our IT director, knocked on my door carrying a laptop and several thick folders containing forensic analysis reports. Marcus had worked for us for 12 years, developing the cybersecurity systems that protected our government defense contracts. His usually calm demeanor showed signs of stress as he set his materials on my conference table. Gordon, we've discovered something that changes everything about Shaw's intentions. Marcus began opening his laptop to display complex code analysis. The malicious software Shaw's consultants planted wasn't just designed to destroy our data during merger completion. I studied the screen, showing lines of programming code that looked like a foreign language to someone with my business background. Marcus explained this in terms I can understand. Shaw's virus would have activated during merger completion, destroying our financial records, client databases, and intellectual property. But that's not the worst part. Marcus highlighted specific code sections in red. The virus also contained backdoor access protocols that would have allowed Shaw to monitor and steal information from 12 other family businesses we partner with. The implications hit me like ice water. Shaw hadn't just targeted our company. He'd planned to use our systems as a gateway for attacking our suppliers, contractors, and business allies. The virus would have spread through our network connections, giving Shaw access to dozens of family enterprises across the manufacturing sector. Marcus, how many companies would have been affected? Based on our network analysis, Shaw could have accessed confidential information from 17 family businesses in 6 states. The Patterson Construction Company in Ohio, Williams Electronics in Michigan, Rodriguez Automotive in Texas, plus 14 others we work with regularly. I called an emergency meeting with Amanda, Dad, and our corporate lawyer, David Morrison. Within 30 minutes, they gathered in my office, as Marcus explained the technical details of Shaw's comprehensive attack strategy. "David, what are our legal obligations to warn other companies about Shaw's virus?" Dad asked. "Legally, we're required to notify any business partners whose confidential information might have been compromised," David replied. "Ethically, we should contact every family business Shaw has targeted to share what we've learned about his manipulation tactics." Amanda sat quietly during the technical discussion, then spoke with newfound determination. "Gordon, I want to personally contact Shaw's other victims. I understand his psychological manipulation better than anyone because I experienced it firsthand." "Amanda, that could be emotionally difficult. Shaw's other targets might not want to discuss their experiences with someone who nearly fell victim to the same deception." "Exactly why they need to hear from me," Amanda insisted. "I can explain how sophisticated Shaw's manipulation is and how normal, intelligent people can be deceived by his tactics." Dad supported Amanda's proposal, suggesting we develop a comprehensive outreach program to help Shaw's victims understand what happened and potentially recover some of their losses. Marcus continued his forensic analysis over the following days, discovering additional layers to Shaw's cyber attack strategy. The virus contains sophisticated data mining tools designed to identify the most valuable assets within each targeted company, prioritizing government contracts, proprietary technologies, and established client relationships. "Shaw wasn't randomly destroying family businesses," Marcus explained during our second security meeting. "He was strategically harvesting the most profitable elements while eliminating family ownership and American manufacturing jobs." Amanda requested permission to wear a recording device for a final meeting with Shaw, hoping to gather confession evidence for federal prosecutors. Dad opposed risking Amanda's safety, but she insisted on taking responsibility for her role in Shaw's scheme. "Dad, I helped Shaw get access to our systems and confidential information. I need to help gather evidence that stops him from destroying other families." I proposed an alternative strategy focused on recovery rather than revenge. "Amanda, instead of pursuing Shaw directly, let's concentrate on helping his victims rebuild their businesses and families. Prevention is more valuable than prosecution." The family discussion continued for hours as we debated whether justice required punishing Shaw or protecting future victims. Mom joined us for dinner and suggested we focus on strengthening our own relationships rather than pursuing our enemies. "Children Shaw succeeded temporarily because he divided us against each other," Mom said while serving her famous pot roast. "Our best revenge is rebuilding trust and helping other families communicate better." Amanda agreed to delay any direct confrontation with Shaw while we developed support systems for family businesses facing similar manipulation. Frank recommended hiring additional security consultants who specialized in corporate espionage prevention and family business protection. Dr. Carter suggested we establish employee counseling programs to help workers recognize signs of external manipulation, targeting their loyalty to family ownership. James Thompson proposed financial auditing services for family businesses that couldn't afford professional accounting firms. "Gordon, we should create a foundation that provides education, security consulting, and psychological support for families facing hostile takeover attempts," Amanda suggested during our weekly planning meeting. "Amanda, that's an excellent idea. We could use our experience to prevent other families from going through what we survived." Dad announced his plan to establish the Spencer Family Business Protection Foundation with an initial funding commitment of $2 million. The foundation would provide security consulting, legal assistance, and family communication counseling for small businesses threatened by corporate predators like Shaw. Mom volunteered to serve as the foundation's first director, using her background in family therapy to help families recognize and resist psychological manipulation tactics. "Patricia, you understand both business operations and family psychology," Dad said. "You're perfectly positioned to help families maintain unity during external pressure." Amanda and I began meeting daily to rebuild our communication patterns and develop collaborative leadership strategies. She shared insights from Shaw's manipulation that helped us identify our family's communication weaknesses, while I provided operational knowledge that strengthened her business judgment. Gordon Shaw taught me to question your motives and competence, but working with you directly shows me how much I've learned from your experience and wisdom. Amanda Shaw exploited your desire for independence, but true leadership means elevating others rather than diminishing them. Your strategic vision complements my operational experience in ways that make us stronger together. The board formally approved our new shared leadership structure, with me focusing on daily operations, while Amanda managed strategic planning and external relationships. Dad maintained advisory oversight while transitioning primary authority to the next generation. Frank recommended implementing new protocols requiring family consensus for any major business decisions, preventing future manipulation attempts from dividing family members against each other. Gordon Amanda, your collaboration during this crisis shows that family businesses can combine individual strengths rather than compete for singular control, Frank observed. Shaw's attack actually taught you to trust each other more effectively. 6 months after Shaw's failed merger attempt, our company had grown 20% under the new shared leadership model. Amanda's strategic insights combined with my operational expertise created innovations that impressed our government contract partners and attracted new business opportunities. We'd implemented cybersecurity measures that other family businesses now used as templates for protecting against corporate espionage. The Spencer Foundation had helped 12 family businesses recognize and resist hostile takeover attempts, similar to Shaw's manipulation strategy. Most importantly, Amanda and I had developed a partnership based on mutual respect rather than sibling rivalry. Shaw's deception had forced us to communicate more honestly about our individual strengths, professional goals, and family responsibilities. 6 months later, I stood in the same boardroom where Amanda had fired me, but everything had changed. The mahogany conference table now hosted our weekly family business planning sessions, where Amanda and I collaborated on strategies that honored our grandfather's legacy while embracing modern innovation. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating architectural drawings for our new manufacturing facility and expansion plans that would create 200 additional jobs. Amanda entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee, a ritual that had become central to our rebuilt relationship. Her confident stride and genuine smile showed none of the tension and manipulation that had marked her behavior during Shaw's influence. She wore a simple navy blazer and carried herself with the natural authority of someone who'd learned to lead through partnership rather than dominance. Gordon, I have news that closes this chapter permanently, Amanda said, settling into her chair with barely contained excitement. Federal prosecutors filed fraud charges against Shaw yesterday. Our recorded conversations provided crucial evidence for their case. The prosecution had been building for months, as Shaw's victims across multiple states shared their experiences with federal investigators. The systematic nature of Shaw's manipulation, combined with his cyber attacks on family business computer systems, qualified as racketeering under federal organized crime statutes. Amanda, how many families are involved in the prosecution? 15 families representing over $2 billion in lost businesses and destroyed legacies. Shaw's scheme was larger and more coordinated than anyone initially realized. The investigation revealed that Shaw had been systematically targeting successful family businesses for 8 years, using identical psychological manipulation tactics, refined through repeated practice. His corporate psychology consultants had developed detailed profiles for exploiting common family business vulnerabilities, generational tensions, sibling rivalries, and the challenge of balancing personal relationships with professional responsibilities. Gordon Shaw's other victims describe experiencing exactly the same manipulation I went through. He convinced the Williams daughter that her father was mismanaging finances. He told the Patterson son that his siblings were sabotaging expansion opportunities. Every family heard identical lies customized to their specific relationships. I reflected on how Shaw's standardized deception had nearly destroyed our family's unity and business legacy. His success depended on families being too embarrassed or confused to compare their experiences with other victims. Dad entered the conference room carrying the morning newspaper, his expression showing satisfaction rather than vindictiveness. Children Shaw's arrest made the business section headlines. The article describes his scheme as one of the largest family business fraud cases in federal history. The newspaper article detailed Shaw's financial desperation as the primary motivation for his criminal activities. Titan Industries had been leveraged beyond sustainability, facing bankruptcy within months, when Shaw began his systematic attacks on family businesses. Our stable financial foundation and government defense contracts had represented his final opportunity to avoid corporate collapse. Dad, the article mentions that Shaw's virus would have affected over 50 family businesses through our network connections. He was planning industrial-scale corporate destruction. Shaw wasn't just stealing individual companies, Dad replied. He was attempting to eliminate family ownership across entire manufacturing sectors, replacing American businesses with overseas operations controlled by his investors. Amanda shared additional details about Shaw's manipulation that had emerged during the federal investigation. His corporate psychology consultants had studied family therapy research to identify emotional triggers that reliably generated conflict between parents and children, siblings, and business partners. Gordon Shaw's consultants actually published academic papers about family business psychology, then used their research to develop manipulation strategies. They turned legitimate family therapy techniques into weapons for corporate espionage. The revelation highlighted how Shaw had corrupted professional knowledge designed to help families communicate more effectively. His systematic abuse of psychological research represented a betrayal of trust that extended far beyond business fraud. Frank Rodriguez arrived for our board meeting carrying reports about the Spencer Family Business Protection Foundation's first-year achievements. The foundation had helped 19 family businesses recognize and resist hostile takeover attempts while providing security consulting and family communication counseling. Gordon, Amanda, your foundation has prevented an estimated $400 million in family business losses across 6 states, Frank announced. The educational programs you developed are being used by business schools to teach ethics and family enterprise protection. Mom had successfully established foundation partnerships with universities, professional counseling organizations, and cybersecurity firms to create comprehensive support networks for family businesses facing external threats. Patricia's background in family therapy, combined with business operations experience, makes her uniquely qualified to help families maintain unity during crisis situations. Dad observed, "She's preventing other families from experiencing what we survived." Amanda and I presented our new 5-year expansion plan to the board, outlining strategies that combine traditional manufacturing excellence with cutting-edge technology development. Our partnership had generated innovations that attracted attention from government agencies and private sector partners who valued our collaborative approach to leadership. Frank, our shared leadership model has increased productivity by 30%, while improving employee satisfaction and retention rates. I explained, Amanda's strategic vision combined with operational expertise creates competitive advantages that neither of us could achieve independently. The board unanimously approved our expansion proposal, which included opening 2 additional manufacturing facilities and hiring over 300 new employees. Our government defense contracts had doubled due to enhanced security protocols and innovative product development. Dr. Carter praised our leadership transition as a model for other family businesses navigating generational change. Gordon, Amanda, your experience demonstrates that family enterprises can successfully combine individual talents while maintaining unified decision-making. James Thompson announced that our employee pension program had become a recruitment advantage that helped us attract the most qualified workers in our industry. Your commitment to traditional family business values while embracing modern innovation sets an example for American manufacturing. Amanda expressed gratitude for my forgiveness and patience during her recovery from Shaw's manipulation. Gordon, Your willingness to rebuild trust, despite my betrayal, taught me that true leadership means protecting relationships rather than accumulating individual power. Amanda Shaw exploited your desire to prove yourself independently, but working together shows me that your different perspective and strategic thinking complement my experience in ways that make us both more effective. Dad formally announced his complete retirement, confident that Amanda and I could lead together more effectively than either of us could manage individually. Children Shaw's attack ultimately strengthened our family by forcing honest communication about our fears, ambitions, and responsibilities to each other. The celebration dinner that evening included employees, board members, and community leaders who had supported our company through the crisis with Shaw. Mom's catering featured dishes from our grandfather's immigrant heritage, honoring the family traditions that Shaw had tried to convince us were business weaknesses. Robert, watching your children overcome external manipulation and rebuild their relationship gives me hope for all American families facing similar challenges, Frank said during his toast. Amanda and I visited our grandfather's grave the following weekend, sharing news of the company's growth and our renewed partnership. The marble headstone bore his name, and the inscription he'd chosen, "Family unity builds lasting prosperity." I reflected on the lesson that Shaw's attack had taught us about protecting what matters most. True strength comes from lifting others up rather than tearing them down. Family businesses succeed when individual talents serve collective purposes rather than personal advancement. Gordon. I understand now that our grandfather's legacy isn't just about manufacturing products or making profits, Amanda said as we stood beside his grave. It's about creating something that serves others while strengthening the relationships that give life meaning. The drive back to town took us past our original manufacturing facility, where our grandfather had started with 12 employees and a determination to build something lasting. 60 years later, we employed over 800 people whose families depended on the stability and values that Shaw had tried to destroy. Amanda and I stopped at the foundation offices where Mom was meeting with a family from Oregon, whose construction business was facing manipulation tactics identical to Shaw's approach. The foundation's success in preventing corporate predation had attracted families from across the country seeking education and support. Gordon, helping other families recognize and resist manipulation, feels like the most important work we could do with what we learned from Shaw's attack, Amanda observed. The final scene of our story took place in our boardroom, where Amanda and I reviewed proposals from 3 different government agencies interested in our cybersecurity innovations and family business protection research. Our experience with Shaw had generated expertise that could help protect American businesses from similar attacks. Amanda Shaw thought he was destroying our family and business, but he actually taught us to value what we have and protect it more effectively. Gordon, the most satisfying part is knowing that our experience helps other families avoid the pain and confusion Shaw caused us. Turning our crisis into wisdom that protects others feels like justice. I realized that Shaw's manipulation had failed because he'd underestimated our family's capacity for forgiveness and our commitment to each other's success. His cynical view of family relationships as business weaknesses ignored the strength that comes from shared purposes and mutual support. The story ends with Amanda and I shaking hands with representatives from the Department of Defense who want to use our security protocols and family business research to protect other companies with government contracts. Our experience with corporate espionage had generated innovations that could safeguard American businesses and manufacturing jobs. Shaw's attack had been designed to divide and destroy, but it ultimately taught us to communicate more effectively, trust more deeply, and protect more carefully the relationships and values that give business success its real meaning. True family strength comes not from individual dominance, but from unified purpose, honest communication, and the courage to forgive while still protecting what matters most. Shaw had tried to convince us that family bonds were business liabilities, but our experience proved they're actually our greatest competitive advantage. The lesson that resonates most deeply is that protecting family relationships requires the same vigilance and strategic thinking needed to build successful businesses. External threats are real, but they're defeated through unity rather than division, trust rather than suspicion, and love rather than fear. Have you ever experienced a situation where someone tried to turn your family members against each other? How did you recognize the manipulation and rebuild trust? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe for more stories about family resilience and business success, and share it with anyone who might benefit from learning about protecting family relationships from external manipulation. Thank you for joining Gordon and Amanda's journey from betrayal to renewed trust. May your own family relationships grow stronger through honest communication, mutual forgiveness, and shared commitment to protecting what matters most. Until our next story together, remember that the bonds we build with love are stronger than any force that tries to divide us.